Well, hello, it's Bill from HistoryHighlights.com. Hope this finds you doing well. Hey, for November the 19th, a special anniversary of the Gettysburg Address. And as we are cruising along the Mississippi River, visiting places like Vicksburg, which happened the same time as Gettysburg, I thought this would be an appropriate feature to include today, because today is the anniversary of one of the great speeches in American history, Abraham Lincoln's famous Gettysburg Address. It was delivered on a Thursday afternoon, the 19th of November in 1863. The tide of the Civil War struggle had shifted dramatically in July of 1863 as the mighty Confederate fortress at Vicksburg had finally surrendered, opening the way for complete Union control over the strategically important transportation route of the Mississippi River. And that same week, Union forces had earned another important victory at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, following a bloody three-day battle and staggering losses by both sides, totaling around 50,000 casualties, and costing Confederate General Robert E. Lee more than a third of his troops. After the devastating battle, Gettysburg citizen David Wills convinced Pennsylvania to purchase 17 acres of the battlefield to establish a cemetery for the soldiers to be properly buried. The reburial of Union soldiers from the Gettysburg battlefield graves began in October, and the Soldiers' National Cemetery was to be dedicated on November the 19th of 1863. Just 17 days before the ceremony, David Wills wrote to President Abraham Lincoln and invited him to attend the dedication and offer some brief remarks, stating in his letter that Lincoln's presence would, quote, kindle anew in the breasts of the comrades of those brave dead who are now in the tented field or nobly meeting the foe in the field, a confidence that they who sleep in death on the battlefield are not forgotten by those highest in authority, and they will feel that, should their fate be the same, their remains will not be uncared for. Approximately 15,000 people were on hand for the ceremony. The featured speaker was renowned orator and former senator from Massachusetts, Edward Everett, who spoke eloquently for about 2 hours. Lincoln's brief masterpiece of a dedication took only 2 minutes. In only 271 words, he powerfully clarified the purpose and principles of the war and paid meaningful tribute to those who had sacrificed their lives to preserve the Union. Edward Everett wrote to Lincoln the following day, quote, I should be glad if I could flatter myself that I came as near to the central idea of the occasion in 2 hours as you did in 2 minutes. In the speech, Lincoln made a humble disclaimer that the world will little note nor long remember what we say here. But of course, his brief speech continues to resonate in the American memory. The text of Lincoln's Gettysburg Address is carved into one of the walls besides the statue of President Lincoln there at Washington, D.C.'s Lincoln Memorial. So in celebration of the event's anniversary, I'm honored to read Lincoln's Gettysburg Address for you here. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. It's an amazing speech. It hangs in a special place in time and in the memory of our country. I hope here just after Veterans Day, it brings meaning to you and certainly is a fascinating little moment in the pages of history. Have a great day. Come on over to History Highlights and see all the programs and ebooks and audiobooks and video presentations and virtual cruises that we have to offer you to help you discover a love affair for America's history. Thanks for joining me. I'm Bill Wiemuth from HistoryHighlights.com.